Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm Ling Zhang. We've got a lot of important pieces for what's going on in the state. So here's a look before we start. The census published its data for 2021. California made several entries on the top 10 list for the greatest population decreases. We'll look at who left which counties. Governor Gavin Newsom recently signed a new law making abortion more accessible to women in the state. One pro-life activist said she's seen the after effects of women turning to drugs and alcohol to cope with past abortions. And more news about California. The state's community colleges are now considering whether to require diversity quotas on hiring and tenure review. Critics say it's divisive. The U.S. Census just released the most recent national data on Thursday. California led the nation once again, with one county having the top net decrease in residents throughout the nation. Several California counties saw the biggest population decline during the pandemic. Latest U.S. Census data released on Thursday shows 4 California counties made the nation's top 10 list for greatest population decline in 2021. The census looked at the U.S. counties that saw significant population declines between April 1st, 2020 and July 1st, 2021, coinciding with the first 15 months of the pandemic. The population declines in over 2/3 of the U.S. counties are due to natural decreases with low birth rates. But the main reason for the decline in several counties of California is because more people moved out than those who moved in. Coming in first place was Los Angeles County, losing over 180,000 residents. Other significant decreases happened in San Francisco, Santa Clara, and Alameda County. In terms of percentages, San Francisco County lost 6.7% of its population during the same time period, second only to New York County on a national scale. The census data didn't give detailed numbers on where Californians are moving to, but it did show that Dallas-Fort Worth, Arlington region of Texas saw a net influx of more than 97,000 residents. Recently, the governor signed the Abortion Accessibility Act. It lowers the cost for those seeking abortion services. One pro-life activist who has been helping women since her teenage years shares her thoughts with NTD's David Lamb.
This week, the governor signed Senate Bill 245 into law, which prohibits insurance plans from charging copay and other fees for abortions. Governor Gavin Newsom stated, "With this legislation, will help ensure equitable, affordable access to abortion services so that out-of-pocket costs don't stand in the way of receiving care." Insurance companies would be the ones covering the upfront costs, which can exceed $1,000. Joni Durling, a pro-life activist, told NTD she believes fees should be waived for other health services instead of abortions. Insurance companies shouldn't be forced to pay it either.
We're floating this out here as if abortion is healthcare. It doesn't cure any diseases known to man. It is pregnancy, never been considered a disease. It's a process that women go through in life, largely by their own choice.
Durling used to work at a crisis pregnancy center when she was 16.
I've seen time and again that most of the women that have chosen to go either to keep their children or to go the adoption route have been thrilled. I mean, I don't know really anyone who thinks that that was a bad choice that they made to do that. They are happy that their children some of them have gone on to live lives with adoptive families, and they've been able to get in touch with them.
Durling also worked with Rachel's Vineyard, an organization that helps women after abortions.
I've dealt with women in jail, and I've come to realize, and via their own words, that a lot of them are there because of drugs and alcohol, and they were trying to dull the pain of the abortions they had had when they were young.
She said many women wanted to keep their baby, but were scared due to condemnation from family or financial situations, and felt they had no alternatives to abortion.
So we're not here to condemn women who have already gone through the procedure because they need to be healed after that. But we are trying to prevent further women from going down that path.
The new legislation takes effect on insurance plans starting on January 1st, 2023. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
It looks like California's gas tax is here to stay. Republican lawmakers once again attempted to suspend the 51 cents per gallon gas tax on Thursday. Assemblyman Kevin Kiley, representing Rockland, attempted to reintroduce Assembly Bill 1638 on March 24th. However, it was denied a hearing on an urgency order in a 48-18 vote. Republican Senator Melissa Melendez wrote on Twitter, Republican pushed to have an immediate suspension of the gas tax, and once again, Democrats voted no. Kiley's efforts came one day after Governor Gavin Newsom announced an $11 billion proposal to ease the gas price burden. The proposal includes $400 rebates in the form of debit cards. Every Californian with a registered vehicle may receive a card. Kiley previously introduced the bill in January, but it failed in the state assembly on March 14th. AB 1638 will be reheard in an assembly committee on a different date. A new bill that passed the California Senate will allow workers to leave unsafe work conditions due to emergency situations. Opponents to the bill argue that it leaves too much discretion to workers and puts employers at legal risk if they try to challenge an employee's judgment. NTD's Jason Blair brings us more.
A new bill would allow employees to leave a job site or skip work if they cite unsafe conditions due to a state of emergency. SB 1044 was introduced by Los Angeles Senator Maria Durazo.
We are talking about conditions outside the employer's control that make the work site unsafe. This is not the same as the right to refuse unsafe work.
Durazo cited the 6 Amazon employees that died in an Illinois warehouse during a tornado this past December as one of the motivations behind the bill.
Unfortunately, there have been cases of workers being put in vulnerable and life and death situations where they are required to continue to work despite the imminent threat of a state or emergency or other significant emergency condition.
The bill would also require employers to allow workers to keep their cell phones on them in case of emergency situations. Also, a worker must notify their employer if they do leave a site due to unsafe conditions. Opponents to the bill argue that employers could be put at legal risk. For instance, if an employer decides to take disciplinary action with a worker who doesn't notify them of leaving a work site, then under the Private Attorneys General Act, the employer could be sued for workplace violations. Ashley Hoffman from the California Chamber of Commerce said, SB 1044 gives such a broad discretion to employees that if they walk away from a completely safe workplace, the employer could do little in response without risking litigation. The bill did pass the Senate with a 4-1 vote and is now heading to the Appropriations Committee. Jason Blair, NTD News, California.
California community colleges are considering diversity quotas in hiring and tenure review. Others describe the move as a divisive measure.
The governing board that oversees the California community colleges is thinking about including diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, or DEIA, to evaluate employees and tenure review processes. The chancellor and vice chancellor introduced the proposal as part of the enrollment management strategy. It aims to advance student equitable outcomes. The strategy requires faculties to employ teachings that reflect DEIA and anti-racist principles, and in particular respect for and acknowledgement of the diverse backgrounds of students.
Our goal has been to develop a common framework for all of our districts in our system to be able to make fundamental changes to the way that we define successful performance, provide feedback to employees, and prioritize our professional development resources and efforts.
However, some are concerned, calling it a divisive measure. A nonpartisan and nonprofit organization that seeks equal rights in public education, called the Californians for Equal Rights Foundation, questioned the proposal. In a statement, the foundation said the colleges would subscribe to all major tenets of critical race theory, and that the changes are illiberal and toxic, serving only to further inflame racial divisions and cover up real problems in our education system. In addition, the foundation said the action also pushes higher education toward ideological indoctrination and thought conformity through creating a uniform understanding of how to evaluate for all employees. The presidents of several other community college associations also expressed their concern in a letter asking the board to make changes to the proposal. The CCC governing board will further discuss the proposal at a future meeting.
We're going to take a short break, but here's a look at what we've got for you when we come back. The Los Angeles Police Department reported an uptick in violent robberies. They warned against wearing expensive jewelry. Researchers are testing a new way to replenish California's groundwater. It's all natural too. And a service dog received a mini celebration for his retirement in Southern California. The pooch served for 4 years, protecting the state's agriculture from invasive pests and diseases. That and more on California Today. The state's eviction moratorium may continue for another 3 months. A new bill introduced on Thursday would give an extension to people who have applied for rental assistance.
A new assembly bill may extend the state's eviction moratorium for a certain group of people. Democratic Assembly members Tim Grayson and Buffy Wicks introduced AB 2179 on Thursday. The bill will extend the eviction moratorium for 3 months for individuals who have open applications for rental assistance. Current state law says people with open rental assistance applications cannot be evicted until March 31st. But the law will also come to an end on the same day. Additionally, new applications for rental assistance will no longer be accepted after April 1st. The California Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency says nearly 300,000 people have applications still pending for rental assistance. The rental assistance program will use federal money to pay off applicants' rent fees. Lawmakers plan to hold a public hearing on the bill next week. To have its intended effect, Governor Gavin Newsom would need to sign the bill into law before the beginning of April.
Amid a spree of armed robberies, LAPD gives a reminder to locals about wearing expensive accessories in public. NTD's David Lam reports.
In a Los Angeles Police Commission meeting this week, the LAPD chief provided crime statistics and warned the public about increasing armed robbery. He said robberies in the city are up 18% compared to last year around this time.
But the bottom line to this is that there's been a marked increase of armed robberies involving victims wearing expensive jewelry, as well as just other individuals, whether they're at commercial stores such as mini markets and convenience stores, gas stations, or on the street.
Robberies involving a firearm are up 44%, an over 200 case increase compared to 2021. Earlier this week, smash and grab robbers looted the high-end Beverly Hills jewelry store in broad daylight. Several weeks ago, a driver of a Lamborghini was attacked. Police said thieves were after his watch.
And what we're asking the public to be mindful of is that with these increases, that if they're going to wear expensive jewelry, or as they are involved in perhaps driving high-end cars, leaving restaurants, taverns, and other locations, that they be mindful of their surrounding, that they remain in well-lit areas.
Moore also said traveling in groups can deter opportunists attempting robbery. LAPD stated the department is remaining vigilant and closely tracking the increase in armed robberies, including suspects and vehicle descriptions of those responsible. David Lam, NTD News, California.
California is dry across the state and even below too. Agricultural scientists are looking at ways to restore California's underground water supply, and they've found a both novel and a natural way to do it.
New research may have found a way to not only effectively but also naturally replenish California's groundwater. According to National Geographic, the Kearney Agricultural Research Center in Fresno County is pioneering a soil rehydration trick that nature knew all along. Scientists with the University of California system are using grapes to replenish California's severely depleted aquifers, more specifically the grapevine's roots. Dawn Cameron, manager of Terra Nova Ranch, had a chance to test the idea in February 2011. In a similarly dry year, an unexpected storm dumped both rain and snow upstream of Cameron's ranch. He diverted extra water into deep canals and ditches and then pumped the water into a field of wine grapes. Instead of drowning the grapes, the water seeped into the ground. And Cameron kept pumping water to the grapevines all the way into summer. He said the grapes are accustomed to living along rivers, so he anticipated the extra water would be natural for the plants. Cameron ended up filling the ground with 13 feet of water, and the grapes survived with no issues. Now, members of the Kearney Research Center are testing the effectiveness of certain plants naturally refilling the state's underground water supplies. If the idea catches on further, it would allow farmers to gather winter stormwater that normally goes unused on crops. Additionally, California's aquifers are already strained like the rest of the state's water supply. Replenishing underground water would help to restore wells that are beginning to run dry. Researchers are now working to identify spots in the land to most effectively funnel water back into the ground.
Now let's meet a good boy who spent his doggy career protecting California's agriculture from unwanted pests and harm. The detector dog celebrated his retirement with treats, pets, and even a small ceremony. NTD's Eileen Ang will introduce us to the hardworking pup.
San Diego County staff organized a small ceremony at the waterfront park to acknowledge a detector dog who spent 4 years working for the San Diego County Agriculture, Weights, and Measures Department. His name is Potter. During his March 23rd retirement ceremony, city officials gave him a pat on the back, a scratch on the head, and lots of treats and toys.
The nose is fantastic, and he just loved long walks. He would howl at sirens and everything. I mean, it's a little surreal, honestly. I mean, it's just like kind of been doing this for 4 years. And
the Labrador and Beagle mix worked with his handler, Kyle Moranton, to intercept unmarked agricultural parcels shipped in violation of agricultural quarantine. Some parcels may contain unwanted pests, such as insects, diseases, and other harmful organisms. Over his 4 years of service, Potter made 426 visits to shipping facilities where he found 728 plants in unmarked parcels and 137 questionable insect pests capable of causing serious harm to agriculture, Moranton said. Potter is 6 years old and is retiring due to a medical condition. He has already been adopted into a loving home. The California Department of Food and Agriculture started its Detector Dog Team program in 2009. Another agriculture inspector is now training to become a dog handler and will join the department in the summer with a new detector dog.
It's time for another eagle update. A bald eagle chick that we've been following since March 3rd is a few weeks old now. There's also a naming contest being held for the baby bird.
A bald eagle chick that hatched at the beginning of March is growing fast and is now 3 weeks old. Friends of Big Bear Valley, operators of the webcam watching the family, say the chick now weighs more than 2 pounds. The chick is quickly growing in size from feasting on bits of fish brought to it by its mother, Jackie, and father, Shadow. The pair laid 2 eggs this season, but only one of them hatched. The family is located atop a pine tree, nesting about 145 feet above the ground. Meanwhile, Friends of Big Bear Valley is holding a contest to name the chick. The organization will send 35 name suggestions to classrooms in Big Bear Lake to vote on the chick's name after spring break. The name submission deadline is through Sunday, March 27th. Naming ideas can be done through the Friends of Big Bear Valley website. Their website also has live streaming footage of the eagles for those who can't get enough.
Now to NTD's Thomas Christian for an update on sports.
I'm Thomas Christian, giving you the California Today Sports Roundup. Caitlyn Jenner understands the sport, the barriers to competition, and most importantly, that money talks. She
can open doors for two-time W Series champion Jamie Chadwick, and we'll know she has been successful if the Briton walks away at the end of the season. Chadwick, 23, is returning to the all-female series as part of a new Jenner Racing team after being unable to secure a seat further up the motorsport ladder.
I want to do my best to open up doors, because the way you make the next move, unfortunately, it's the nature of racing. It costs money. You have to get people behind you. And my job is to expose, Jamie, what she's doing on the racetrack, maximize that the best we possibly can, talk with the right people to be able to financially back her as we make that next move. You can make the next move if you come with a large wallet. Then they listen.
Drivers need significant funding to secure seats in Formula One's F2 and F3 feeder series, unlike the W Series, which is free to enter and aims to help end the 46-year wait for a female F1 driver. Former Olympic gold medalist and transgender activist Jenner told Reuters on Thursday she hoped to make things happen for Chadwick. The W Series, using identical Formula 3 cars maintained by the organizers with teams introduced primarily for sponsorship opportunities, features 8 races held on the same weekends as Formula 1. The series begins in Miami from May 6th to May 8th as a support event for the city's inaugural Grand Prix around the Hard Rock Stadium. Chadwick is part of the Williams F1 Driver Academy and could get track time this season, although she said she has nothing planned. Paul George participated in the Clippers' Thursday practice, the first time he has done so since December 2021. The 31-year-old has been sidelined for a considerable amount of time this season with an elbow injury. The Clippers have been eerily quiet about the specifics of what George is dealing with, never actually naming the injury. At first, George was set to miss just 3 to 4 weeks. Then, another update came, and George was going to miss another few more weeks, and then another few more weeks. And all of a sudden, these missed games are really starting to add up. George has only played in 26 of a possible 74 games this season. Without the 7-time All-Star, the Clippers are sitting at the 8th seed in the Western Conference, squarely in the play-in tournament, set to be played mid-April. George's superstar teammate Kawhi Leonard has also missed the entire season with a partial ACL tear. If both Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were to be healthy by the playoffs, the Clippers would surely have a good chance to win a championship. Paul George practicing is just a step in that direction.
As always, I'm Thomas Christian, and thanks for tuning in.
And that's all for tonight. You can join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. If you have any news tips or ideas for our show, or you just want to let us know how we're doing, our email is california.today@ntd.com. I'm Liang Zhang. Have a nice weekend.